What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker.
Rahimi.
And today on The Great Debaters, one of my all-time favorite albums and one of the best artists of all time, Twista, Adrenaline Rush. All right, Amir. So we're back here on The Great Debaters. As always, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to y'all as often as possible with as many interviews and episodes of The Great Debaters as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share it, talk about it, be about it. Each one, teach one, and we appreciate your guys' support in getting us this far. So Amir, with Twista, with Adrenaline Rush, what were your first exposures to this project?
So actually, I had first heard the Adrenaline Rush beat not from Twista, but actually on a cypher, and that was pretty much my first exposure to this album. But I remember it was 2012, and Horseshoe Gang, from Crooked Eyes, Circle of Bosses, etc. Horseshoe Gang had dropped a cypher that was just called, I think the 2012 cypher. You can check it out on YouTube. It's dope. It's a dope track. But anyways, they had rapped over the Adrenaline Rush beat, and they had also rapped over Kendrick Lamar's Recipe. And I was just, I don't know, when I first heard this, I was like, well, I know the Kendrick beat. What's this other beat I hadn't heard? Because at that time, I hadn't heard this album. And I was just like, wow, they're spitting well, but this beat is something else. And then I saw in the YouTube, people were talking about Adrenaline Rush, and surprisingly, actually, I didn't listen to it till years later. I don't know why I didn't Google or YouTube it after that, but that was my first exposure to the beat. Then a few years later, I bought the album and I listened to that, and I'll just say it's a damn shame that it took me so long to listen to the album. But also, not only am I going to blame myself for that, but I'm going to blame the general population for not talking about this album as well, because it's amazing. So let me first get into Adrenaline Rush and talk about that a little bit, because that's my first pick. Might be my favorite song on the album. If not, it's number 2. And like I said, this beat is phenomenal. I mean, big shout out to Traxxer, because this beat is just phenomenal. It's so good. And then we get Young Buck of Psychodrama, who up to this point I had only heard a couple features. I hadn't heard Psychodrama's music, Young Buck's music, really, so I was really just on features, and I was very happy that Young Buck did not try and do a Twista flow on this, because I think his slow, menacing, dark, the way his voice is on this beat, what he's saying, I think is just awesome, and I really like how he didn't try and be a clone of Twista. He stayed in his own lane, he did his own thing, because a lot of the times when people kind of try and match another artist, a lot of the time it doesn't work. And I'm happy he didn't try and do that. And then you get Twista coming in on this beat, and you're like, oh my god, it's just like, you get just like the yin and the yang, and they work so well together. And then you get that incredible chorus where you have Twista rapping, and then you hear Young Buck say the Adrenaline Rush, and then you hear Twista going in, and you hear the synths in the song, and it's so good. And then they both split the verses, and I'm just like, dude. And Traxxer, at one point, he, speeds it up, and then it's just, it's production that it's well, Traxxer knows he made a freaking incredible beat, but he's not stopping there. He's going to mess with it slightly throughout the track, because he's just a good producer. And then you get Twista, who's just, I'll talk about this in another song, but when I first heard this, I was like, people don't talk about this album. This shit is amazing. This song right here is, trumps a lot of people's singles, and it's not talked about, or trumps even half their albums. It's crazy. So Soren, I can't imagine that not being one of your songs. But
yes, Adrenaline Rush, of course, is one of my picks, and Amir heard it a lot later in the game, and it had the same impact it had on him in the 2010s as it did to me when I first heard it in '97. So that lets you know. Not only is it a timeless song, but it's a song that stylistically, musically, and creatively stands the test of time, to where if you heard it right now, there's still a lot of people that can't do what Young Buck did, they can't do what Twista did, and beat-wise, they can't do what Traxxer did. So right there, you have this perfect blend of sound, style, lyrics, delivery, execution. And it just was in the best of ways, like a tornado when I heard this song. I was just like, It was just a explosion of every great way you could look at it. And, you know, I just interviewed Young Buck, so check out the link right up there if you haven't seen that yet. But Psychodrama, who I knew of and who I'd been familiar with through a lot of their underground work, Magic, of course, being the most prominent, but hearing him on the best mixed and mastered and produced song to that point was amazing. And then hearing Twista, who had been reinventing, resurrecting, developing himself to come back, and this is the title track of his debut on Atlantic Records. I was just like, this is insanely phenomenal. And it's still, I think, one of the best rap songs ever made.
Yeah.
It's up there with some of the best songs you could ever hear. And that's why it's one of my picks. So, Amir, what's your second pick?
It's funny how you say that, because I'm really hoping that people agree with that, because it's so good. And I don't care if it cusses and he's from Chicago or whatever you may say. This song is art. It's so good. And my second pick might be my favorite song. I'm not sure. It's really between this and an Adrenaline Rush, but this would be Overdose. And I just, honestly, man, when I heard this song, I was blown away. First off, this is one of those songs that, because I have one friend who he used to be just really, he only used to listen to metal. Metal was his genre. But then after, knowing me, he would listen to rap, and he was really drawn to faster rap, rappers who rap fast, like Tech9 or Twista, or he liked other people similar to that. So he would always try and rap the songs that are fast. He just loved it. And this is a song that when I showed him, he was like, oh my god, this is just amazing. And Twista not only is...
sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's very important to state that, again, Amir and his friend are listening to this song in the 2010s, and it came out in 1997, and it still had that impact on them who are listening to current rap and classic rap and all this stuff when they're hearing it, and it's still that impactful because it's that phenomenal. Continue, I'm sorry.
So that's factual. And on top of that too, one thing that is very intriguing about this song is that the verses are so long. But they don't seem long. Like, they're much longer than 16 bars. If you go, and he has 3 of those things. It's not like he has 2 verses, and I don't even think it cracks the 5 minute. I don't remember. I don't see the track and the time on here. But anyways, besides the point, he's making it seem so easy. Then it's like Overdose. So what's he talking about? Well, he's talking about a lot of drugs in this, a lot of things. And Twista is... I honestly would love to be a fly on the wall of that studio, because when you hear a song like this and you just see or hear somebody really going in like that in the booth, honestly, I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, who's topping this? Who's beating this? This is this just has me flabbergasted at what the hell he's saying. And then you get Traxxer, and honestly, you hear this beat, and I'm kind of like, if I was a rapper and I heard this beat, how would I even approach this beat? It's like a very weird, it's super sick, but it's like very weird, like the sounds he's using, and then you get the synths in it later, and then the chorus is super sick, so that was interesting. And then I thought Traxxer, the way they approach it together was so incredible, because I don't think a lot of rappers would rap on this production. And then you get like, oh my god, the stuff he's saying is crazy. But then at the end, Traxxer really has to tell him to get off the mic. Like, stop, they got it. Like, let's go on to the next track. Which reminded me a little bit of, like, the D.O.C. Portrait of a Masterpiece a little bit. Well, first he had to stop his breath, and then Dre says, all right, that's cool, we can go on to the next one. So I like when things like that happen. You hear the producer and the rapper talking to each other. But Overdose, I mean, the raps, how he does it all solo, how... it's 3 verses, but it could be 4 verses if you split it up more. Maybe 5. It's really lyrical, and also on top of that, he's rapping fast. He's fitting in a lot of bars in a short time. But if you really listen or read the lyrics or however you want to do it, he's really spitting some stuff, man. It's impressive. It might be the best song on the album for me. I am shocked at how good Overdose is. And also, on top of that, Twista, I never think of him as like a high rapper, really ever. He's not brought up with the Bone Thugs and the Cypress Hills and the Redmans, but from what I've heard, he has a rep with Smokin'. So that's my second pick.
He's definitely literally and figuratively chiefing on this throughout the whole album. But Overdose is one of mine as well for those reasons. But I think Overdose may be the best example on Adrenaline Rush of what Amir was talking about. Just these massive verses that, because of how intricate Twista is and because of how beautifully and magically he matches the beat, it doesn't ever seem like, oh my god, this verse is so long, or oh man, it's languishing because we're still listening. No, it is just flying through just like Twista is. And then the juxtaposition of the slow, eerie, mysterious, bizarre beat with what Twista's doing, that's what makes Adrenaline Rush, the album, so phenomenal, and Overdose in particular one of the best songs, because you just get this marriage that seems theoretically incongruous, that something so fast and so mid-tempo, borderline slow works so well together. But that's, I guess, maybe the magic of music and opposites attract and all these other things that just show you, like, my goodness, this is phenomenal. And then when you, again, really sit down and pay attention, if you can listen that fast, to what he's saying, and he's breaking down all the street stuff, all the smoking stuff, all this girl stuff. It's just, it's a phenomenal trip through the mind of Twista and how he's able to navigate all these different stories and different things. And he's a great storyteller too, which I don't think Twista gets enough stuff for. And shout out to Dana Dane, of course, one of the early greats of that. So Amir, that's my second pick. What's your third pick on Adrenaline Rush?
All right, so third pick. It's another one of those albums that's just so good, and I was gonna do Death Before Dishonor, but I switched it last second. But I mean, I love the Mobsters anthem. There's just so much I love. But you know what's interesting before I get into my pick is, I'm looking at the tape here, and it's very easy to tell what the half of the album is, as they always split it up. And it's funny how in the second half of the album they started off with Get Her in the Mood. Just like a skit like that is funny to start off with. But then it goes into my my last pick, and that would be Emotions, one of the singles. I have the vinyl right behind me. And Emotions is just such a great, smooth track, but also Twista is, as throughout a lot of the album, he's just, being a player and whatever, and talking about how he gets women or how he views them or whatever. And this is just that, but more focused. And Johnny P on the feature does a great job of kind of making the mood even more so in that direction, which I think was excellent. For a single, I thought it was, a good choice as well. And I just really, really, really like the song. I just think how Twista just raps, like I said, this is a little easier to keep track with than like an Overdose type of song to understand what he's saying, but man, how he can get into someone's emotions. And one line that I like a lot is where he says, like, well, if the time's right, then maybe you can get that lifetime contract. It's just like Twista views himself as the prize. He's gonna get you, or you're gonna want to get him, or whatever. Then you hear the girl talking like, ooh, I want you, and all this stuff. I mean, it's just a banger. Really, really, really good. And this, I want to talk about more songs on here, but I'm going to let you tail it off here with your last track.
Emotions is not my third pick. My third pick is Death Before Dishonor. And so the thing is, I'm definitely a fan of songs where, they're talking to, aimed toward, about women or what have you. But Adrenaline Rush, Death Before Dishonor, and Overdose are so phenomenal and next level and remarkable that I can't deviate from those three. And Death Before Dishonor is one of those, again, for people who are like dismissing Twista because he raps fast. My favorite line on there is when he says, leave you with two holes like the letter B. And I was just like, come on, dude. Like, now we're not playing fair. You can rap faster than anybody, and you've got extreme lyricism, and you're doing what people say of making this image and these pictures of what people are. Yeah. In your rhymes, or what you can do to people, and all this other stuff is so visual. And then, again, the beat from Traxster. This is my favorite type of Traxster beat, where it's just that dirty, ominous menacing, macabre, slow, weird craziness. And, you know, both of them just bring their A game to Death Before Dishonor. Yeah. And my picks are 3 of the first 5 songs, which is kind of unusual for me because I do like songs that are spread out, or I happen to find albums are a little more balanced. But this just hit me so hard when I was first listening to this album, and every time I do listen to it again, or these songs, it's just the beginning of the album. It's like a sledgehammer, man. And then you get into more of the stuff about girls, or, you know, we do get some of the more street harder tales toward the end of the album, of course, as well. But man, those first 5 tracks with Overdose, Death Before Dishonor, and Adrenaline Rush. Good luck finding harder, better rapping and production on the first 5 songs of the album. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is.
So, anything you want to add on Death Before Dishonor?
Death Before Dishonor is amazing. But one thing about like this album is that, one, I'm upset people don't talk about Twista enough. But even that, I mean, it went platinum a couple years ago or whatever, and at the very least went gold. But like I said, I don't see people talking about this album, and it really makes me mad. Because it's incredible. And
that's why we're here, Amir. That's why we're here. The great debaters.
That is why we're here. So we want to see people in the comments talking about their favorite tracks. As if there aren't a lot of people talking about it, then I'm going to assume you haven't heard it. And you should listen to it because it's that incredible. So that's what I got to say.
So there it is. You guys got Amir's 3 picks. You got my 3 picks. As always, hit us up in that comment section. And subscribe if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, please get a friend to subscribe to Unique Access Entertainment so we can keep growing and come to you guys as often as possible. So I'm Soren Baker,
Amir, Rahimi,
and Twista, Trackster, and the whole crew. Thanks for this masterpiece.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
It would be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
What's that 5 on your MTV Rap with NWA?
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.